And now, this KRWC Radio special presentation. KRWC Radio presents the 2022 Buffalo Mayoral Debate. The views expressed in this program do not necessarily reflect those of KRWC Radio, its advertisers, staff, or listeners. Tonight's program has been previously recorded.
Hello everybody, we're going to start now, so appreciate you all coming out here today. You know, I know that there was another forum last night, but as far as I'm concerned, this is the real forum. This is where you guys get the opportunity to ask your questions that you want to have answered by the two mayoral candidates for Buffalo this election season. So you guys probably already know the people here. Teri Lachermeier, who's the current mayor of Buffalo, Jeremiah Patrick, who's over there. So, and you should thank them for having the courage to stand up in front of people like this to be able to answer questions that are there. I think it's really a great thing when people are willing to step up and be transparent about their thoughts and their vision of this for the city of Buffalo. Okay, so my name is Lane Roshan. I live in St. Michael, longtime resident of St. Michael. And you probably, why is he at St. Michael? I come on over here. Because I don't have a horse in this race, right? You know, I just believe in good government. I used the word transparency before because I believe people should be able to ask questions from and hear from candidates to be able to determine who they're going to vote for their city, their county, their school district down the road. It's critical. It's good government is what it is. So that's why I'm here. The way we'll do this is this. After I'm done with this little speech, they're going to go up, give 5 minutes each to talk about this. Their 5 minutes. They can do whatever they want to. And then after that's done, after they do their 5 minutes, then I'll start out with two questions. And then after that, they'll get 2 minutes each, up to 2 minutes, rather, to be able to respond to the questions that I give them. And we'll follow the same procedure with respect to you guys out in the audience. After those two questions are done, you get to ask questions. So I'm going to, whoever raised their hand, I'm going to bring the microphone over there. You speak into the microphone just like I'm doing right now, and you can ask your question. They get 2 minutes each. And the rules of the road with respect to the questions are this. Please make it just about the city of Buffalo. We don't want any questions about, we don't want abortion. We don't want any questions about feeding our future or anything like that. This is just about Buffalo. And please keep your question to no more than like 2 sentences. We don't want long rants about something. We want to keep it to the point. So it's very clear to the candidates here how they're to respond to that question. And if it's not something that's pointed like, I will use my prerogative and cut you off and ask you to restate it in right then and there in 1 sentence question. So it's very simple for them. Other than that, the other thing, I want to make sure that it's fair for the people out there. You get 1 question initially, and if we run out of time with only 1 question, that's all you get. But if we have time, because we go to 8:30, we're going to go around again. And so people who have had 1 opportunity and nobody else that hasn't asked a question before, wants to bring up, they can bring up a second question. And until 8:30 comes, that's what we'll do. KRWC, as you guys know, is here. So, and they're going to broadcast, not live tonight, but they're going to allow people to listen to it. I don't know which day it is down the road. I didn't hear that part, but you'll be able to hear this again if you wish to. Any questions from anybody? Great. Then who wants to go first? I'll go first. Okay, you'll go first. 5 minutes.
All right. He told me to get close to the mic so that they can hear me out there in KRWC land. My name's Teri Lachermeier. I've been the mayor for the last 6 years, and prior to that, I was on city council for 16 years. Grew up in Buffalo. My husband David is here tonight. My son Dustin is here tonight. And I have 2 other children, Gabrielle and Garrett. And Dustin has my first grandchild, so very proud of him and his wife Kayla, and they live here in Buffalo. A little bit more about me. I graduated from Buffalo High School. It was a great opportunity for me to get involved in the community back then because I felt like the more connected you are with your community, the more your community becomes home. So I started in city government, government in the student council, and that led me to student government at college, where I had to do some lobbying and regarding our rates at our colleges. So it was important for me to be involved in making sure we were getting good, we were paying good premiums, but not too much for our student and not putting debt on. So back then I was really working towards keeping that student debt down. I meet my husband David at St. Cloud State, and we moved to Buffalo, and I started on our St. Francis board, where we talk about all kinds of financial things. So again, I was diving into the financials of our church and helping make good decisions there. And we moved to 8th Street Northeast, and there was a building that was going to go up in the neighborhood. And I remember thinking, I didn't know if that was safe for the neighborhood. So I showed up at the city hall during open forum, and the mayor at the time, Fred Nactaborn, said, "Teri Lachermeier, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I live on 8th Street, and I'm worried about this building that's going up on that street." And I said, "I'm concerned." And he said, "Well, tell us more." And he had me stand up there, and I felt so empowered by being able to speak to the city council, and someone didn't make me feel intimidated by it. So my true passion comes from the communication that I can help people have a voice at that podium and give them a comfort while they're there. Not being intimidated, but allowing them to ask questions that are kind of scary. I mean, I was in my 30s and I really didn't know what I was going to say to the council. I didn't even know how I could address them. And it was very easy the way the mayor and the council gave me the opportunity that I felt the connection. And right after that, I knew that I needed to be a bigger part of the city, and that's when I ran for city council. And those 16 years, I resided on many boards, and I think that's the key to really getting to know the foundation of our community is being on some of those boards. Safe Communities was one of the boards I was on. And while I was on Safe Communities, I got to be part of something called MEDA, Meth Education and Drug Awareness, where we literally brought awareness to the community about a meth problem in Wright County. I got to bring the scary things that are going on in our community. I got to bring an awareness to the community in a way that helped people understand there was a problem, but also educate them on all the things that they can help with. So we spread the message through MEDA, and through that I became part of something called PIF Academy. These are all because I was on council. I wouldn't have had these opportunities, but that PIF Academy was a mentorship program for young women at the middle school level, and I felt as though we needed to help our young women become leaders in our community, especially if they were having emotional problems or learning difficulties at school. I wanted to help build their confidence, and really, to be honest, I think it helped me in some aspects more than it helped them. But I believe that's another piece that being part of a council and being part of the city, if you can give back in these ways, it's huge. I also served on the community center board, which I think gave me a good idea of how the community wants to interact. Have we got the best community center? I say we could improve it, but I'll tell you something. We got a staff over there right now that's engaging our community and bringing people together and bringing families out and giving them things to do that are creative, that are not high cost. They're pretty much free, and they're having things like Oktoberfests and gatherings that parents can be with their kids, but they have safe places to do events. So our community center will grow because of those people engaging the community. It's huge to get your community involved. So that committee really led to more. Then I felt the confidence, and actually I waited for permission from Brad Nauman. I waited for his blessing to tell me I was ready. He said, "I'm not going to endorse you, but I think you're ready." And I said, "Okay, I'm good." So I ran 6 years ago, and since then, I have now resided on a couple of boards that I'm really proud of. One of them is Buffalo Strong, which was brought about by a tragedy in Buffalo. Not something that you want to happen to your community, but it certainly brought about a health and wellness, that our community came together in a caring, connecting, and a continuing way. So I think Buffalo Strong came out of something very, very difficult in the tragedy. I also am the chair of the Wright County's Mayors Association. I'm very proud of that because I have the communication with other mayors in the county. That's my 5 minutes. Thank you very much. I did not think I'd go that.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeremiah Patrick, and I'm running to be your next mayor of Buffalo. My work's taken me to a lot of different places in the United States, and I've seen lots of different types of communities. And one of the things I know more than anything else is that Buffalo is a very special kind of place. It's a piece of small town America where you feel safe. As I've walked around knocking on doors over and over, up and down streets, I see kids playing in roads, something I've never seen any place else in the United States where I've been, where I've worked, where I've lived, because people feel safe here. They know their neighbors. The entire idea of Buffalo at this point is this is home. This is a place where people are investing themselves, their hearts, their souls, their families. My wife is has a long line of people that goes back. And when I came out here, I was astounded to find that she wasn't the only one. There's lots of names that go back a good long way. And it tells me about the deep roots and about just how much this area truly wants itself to stay together and be a small town. And I want to fight to keep that small town feel. I don't want to see the town being forced to make bad decisions because our finances are going in a poor way. I don't want to see a town where all of a sudden we have to keep on making decisions of, well, let's take the first person that's willing to come along, or, well, it's a business, let's just take it. Just saw today, Donuts has lost about 30% of its income at this point after the Dunkin' came in. I want to see these small towns, the American dream, where you can start your own business and you can see it grow and prosper and have the people in the community come and help you. I want to help fight for that for you. Because at the end of the day, as mayor, I'm your advocate. Developers are going to come up here, engineers are going to come up here, state officials are going to come up here. And who's the person that's going to be speaking on your behalf? It's going to be me. It's going to be the council. That's our job. And that's what I want to do just for you. At the end of the day, communication is absolutely critical. I want to be more proactive about how the city talks to all of you. I want all of you to know this is what the city's doing. This is where our money's going. This is what we're looking at. Here's our long-term plans. Here's how we are attempting to make certain that in the future, you're going to be able to continue to afford to live here. As I've gone around knocking on doors, people have told me we're probably going to have to leave town. Our taxes are too high. Our utilities are too high. We were intending that we were going to live out our happiest years here. Now we're going to have to leave because we can't afford it. That's not right. We may not be able to fix every problem in city government, but we can at least make people's lives easier. And I really want to do that for you. Let's open up the lines of communication. Let's find a way to break down the barriers where people don't understand what government's doing, and government has a frustrating time dealing with people who don't understand how to talk to them. Let me be that person who helps out and really helps to open up Buffalo and make everybody's life a little bit better. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So now this section, I'm going to ask a couple questions, only two, and each of them get a chance to respond. 2 minutes, no more than that. I'll do the 15-second rule again. So who wants to go first? Do you want to go first now, Jeremiah? So the first question I have is, what is your personal motivation to want to be mayor in the city of Buffalo?
So I have a little girl who's about 1.5 years old. She's an absolutely wonderful little girl running around, and I'm looking at this town and going, this is the place to raise her. We have parks, we have good schools, we have a nice peaceful area, and I want her to grow up and experience that. And I want to make it so that when she grows up and decides to have a family, she looks at Buffalo and goes, this is the same place where I got raised. This is a good place for me to raise my own family. And I want to preserve that. I want to make sure you can afford to live here, to be able to do that. I don't want to see options made so difficult in terms for what you can afford, what you can't afford. I want to see that opened up And I really want to make certain that people are continually drawn into Buffalo. They've got an opportunity to work here. I want to see them have an opportunity to play here because they're already living here. So why not?
Question is, what are your personal motivations for running for mayor of the city of Buffalo?
Passion. I love the community. I mean, I think it's ironic that Jeremiah picked Buffalo and he spoke so highly of it. I think that leadership from the past have had something to do with that. I think a lot of what's happened over the years has been about leadership and about the people who have put that passion to work. And a lot like what Jeremiah feels, I have those very same feelings. I love the small town feel of Buffalo. I love that my son's living in Buffalo with his 3-year-old daughter who hangs out in the parks and comes to concerts and goes to What's the Scoop and walks on the paths. I love that my husband and I can go on the paths on our bikes and drive all through Buffalo for about 9 miles and then stop downtown and have a beer at the pub. My passion is what drives what I want for this city. I want what you want. I want affordable. I want utility bills that are affordable. I want taxes to be under control, but I will tell you something. We can control some of it. And that's the things that the city will work towards and I will back. And I will tell you, the greatest part is that my proof is in the pudding. In the last 6 years, we've lowered our debt by $16.5 million. We've gone from an A rating to a AA- rating. That's a big deal for a city, especially when it comes to bonding, especially when it comes to making sure that you can get that debt down. So I think that my passion speaks for itself. And Jeremiah, I'm glad you decided to raise your daughter here. I'm glad you decided coming. I'm glad you have passion for Buffalo because that's what it takes. But I have that passion too.
You go first this time, Teri. So, what do you believe are the roles of city government? And just as importantly, what do you believe roles that city government shouldn't be involved with?
Okay, so that's a really good question, and I get asked that by third graders, believe it or not. What does city government do? And I think all of you would probably recognize what city government does. They are ordinance control. They do changes in our infrastructures. They upgrade things. They have safety. And I believe safety is number one. The city government has to make sure your city's safe. We listen to the public. We promote the city. We allow people to come to us on a regular basis. That's why my phone number is everywhere. It's on Facebook. It's on the city website. I literally got a phone call today. So I think it's to have the open door to communication. I think if you have a question, you deserve an answer. So I think city government needs to answer to the public because you're the boss. You're the people that put us in this position. You're the people that really call the shots. We just make it happen if we can. And we do work with staff. A big part of what city government does is they work with their experts. We can't know everything. I can't be the expert on planning and zoning. I can't be the expert on an attorney or some type of a changing documentation in the city. We have to have professionals. So I rely on a lot of the city staff, and I think our city government should rely on city staff. I don't think I should call the shots, and I can tell you, my heart is with the people of Buffalo. That is the truth. And I think if you ask anyone who knows me, they're going to say Teri bleeds purple. That's because it's the city, not our city color, but it's the color of our Buffalo high school color. And I love, love, love this community. And I wouldn't do anything to hurt it. So I believe city government is to represent the people and give good communication and make sure that you follow things like ordinances. And that's what I'm going to stop at. Thank you.
What do you believe are the roles of city government, and perhaps what aren't the roles of city government? What shouldn't city government do?
So I find the roles of city government to be giving vision and guidance to how a city develops and grows. You elect people to be the ones that come up and take a look and see, we're going to need to grow here. We're going to need to mature here. We need some more business. Let's figure out how to solve these problems, work with the staff of the city, and really bring them forward. I don't really find the role of city government to be owning businesses like golf courses or other things like that. Really, the role of city comes down to roads, water, sewer, fire, electric, police, parks. If you can, that's zoning right there. That's, again, you're asking for that vision, and people come forward and say, we need this, we need that. It comes down to asking the city specifically, we need this thing, we need that thing. And then it's my role, it's the role of the local government to look at and figure out how can we best provide what our people are asking us for. What kind of things aren't our people asking us for, but they are actually going to need? How can we really help to guide and improve the area without truly losing that character? We don't really want to see downtown becoming 3 or 5 story apartment blocks. We want to see that character there. So how do we then provide that guiding hand in order to make certain that downtown feels like that little part of America that really draws people in year after year? Aside from that, it's communication. This is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. Do people know what a TIF district is? Do people know what's going in the budget? Do people know what roads are getting replaced? Do people know what's really important? All of these things and more.
Okay, now we're going to open it up to you guys. So everybody gets one question, and after people have raised their hand and nobody else does it, then we'll go around again. So who would like to go first? Way in the back. So you need to speak in the microphone just like I am. And please keep your question as brief as possible.
Thank you very much. Thank you both for being here tonight. My question is, how would you or how do you incorporate citizen input on developments in the city?
Is the question understood? Yep. Okay.
So I hear the question as, how do you view development and how do you take input from the community? Okay. Great question. Well, that's a good question because we are currently working on our comprehensive plan, 2040. We take tons of input from the community. We've done small group studies. We've done small group studies on the downtown. We invite in people that are in that area. We invite businesses. We invite community members. We invite those same people plus the professionals to do the comprehensive plan. And it takes almost 2 years to do those comprehensive plans. And we're kind of at the tail end of it now. But all of that gets put into a plan. And then we go by that plan for the next until 2040. So the input is done in the very beginning, and then as things come into the city, developments, businesses, things like that, we'll go back to that plan, and of course it has to fit within the plan, and then it goes to the planning and zoning, so it goes through a filter system, and then it comes to city council. Ultimately, city council makes the decision, but I believe that is a great plan in place, because it's not us making the plan, it's professionals and the community making the plan. So it doesn't come from council. They don't pick, I think I was involved in one group and I got to put things places, and I'm thinking to myself, why am I doing this? Because we shouldn't do this. The public should do this. The people that want to know where things should go, and then the professional tell us, does it fit? So I think the public should have a huge place in the comprehensive plan and the downtown redevelopments, and that's who was involved in it these past 2 years.
I think what I'd like to see more of is I'd like to see more physical methods of actually measuring people's feedback. I've only seen one survey discussed, and the survey was by and large sidelined because it was thought to be biased. If I'm actually taking in somebody's input, I want to have some sort of way to be able to routinely go, this is what people are telling me. This is what people want. This is what people are seeing. I don't want to be able to say, well, I've talked to a person or two and this is what they think. I actually want to put it down in some way to be able to measure it and say, this is the feeling of people in this area. I've talked to people up and down First Avenue. They were really concerned when ALO got brought up, and they still feel like they weren't fully listened to. The development's built at this point, but they're still a little concerned that they weren't heard. I heard the same things for Havenwood as well. And more as I've gone and knocked on doors, people are saying, we've got concerns about how fast the city is growing, about how large it's becoming. It's starting to lose that small town character, and we don't really know what to do. We don't know how to give that feedback. We don't know how to tell people at the city, where are we going? Why are we doing this? And so what I want to do, start opening things up, start being proactive with communication as well. Let's start telling maybe a quarterly newsletter, maybe some sort of video, something simple and easy to be able to invite that conversation to start more regularly than, say, a utility bill or a city council meeting when all of a sudden people show up and it's the last meeting before it's being signed off on this development or that development, so that there's more time for people to be able to ask those questions and get all the facts instead of feeling confused when all of a sudden something seems to be sprung on them and they don't have time to be able to properly react.
Okay, who's next? I saw this hand go up first. You're next after that.
Thank you. So I want to ask,
Lane, you turn off the microphone.
Okay.
Right here, let me get this.
Try that in.
So you talked about communication and engagement, right? We want everybody in Buffalo to be engaged. Like, wouldn't it be awesome if we actually had a legitimate sample when we take a survey? But we don't. It's a small sample because people aren't engaged. The reason I know they're not engaged, everything you talked about is on the internet. Those council meetings, the thing with government, nothing is fast, ever. That first meeting happened a year and a half ago, but all of a sudden we're making a final decision today in city council? Nope. That's been out there. That's public. We have videos of everything. It's amazing, but we fail as a community in engaging. We don't go search for that information until we heard about it. Uh-oh, there's a buzz. Let's go look. That's when we start talking about it. We've talked about these things that we're talking about today for years. Multiple housing, senior housing, a low apartment building, full. Havenwood, full. You know why they're full? We needed it.
Bring your question up. Sorry.
Yes. What do you think the problem is? What aren't we communicating? What do we need to do differently? We've done all the things. What can we do differently, honestly, with our community to do a better job as a government?
Thanks.
Oh, I started last time. Yeah, you're right.
So I think the first thing to do at this point is to start going into the local community and start finding people who want to be engaged and who want to be interested in finding a way to have maybe a weekly meeting with them, be able to sit down and really start giving them buy-in and have them talk to their neighbors and see if they can't bring them in. There has to be some way to be able to bind people together in their neighborhoods and be able to have them talk to each other and be able to have that information flow a little bit more freely up and down. I want to see people, maybe each apartment has a couple of people in it and they can talk to their neighbors. Maybe around Pulaski as part of the LID district, those people as well could be part of a group. We need to find some way to be able to find that sort of intermediate layer, not quite actually part of the city government, not just an average person, not really on a specific official committee of some sort, but there has to be that intermediate layer, and it has to be driven by people who really want to see these things happen. And I think as people are let in a little bit more and they find out a little bit more and they start to get more engaged, I think that'll catch on with people who are really interested, and we'll see a little bit more.
Well, that's a good question because we've been working on it for years. I will say that one of my favorite things to do is to go to the 9th grade class and teach local government. And I tell them, does anybody want to be a mayor someday? Does anybody want to be on council? Does anybody want to be on a board? And I get hands raised. Now you got to start when they're young. You got to get them in service. And third graders, when I read to them, I tell them about the things that are in the city. I say, hey, is anybody going to go to concerts in the park this summer? It's a free, and usually there's an ice cream truck there. And they all go, I'm going to go to that, I'm going to go to that. So you get people excited at a young age. You engage them and want them to serve. We've lost a lot of those service people. They're basically those baby boomers who just loved it. Now, I won't second guess that because there's a lot of young people in the audience and you're here for a reason or purpose, and I'm thankful for that. But really, engaging those young people, that's what I love to do. I love to talk to third graders, and I love to talk to ninth graders because someday they're gonna live in a community, hopefully Buffalo, and they're gonna wanna be involved, and they're gonna wanna be those people that are in those small groups. So you gotta just keep pounding it. You gotta put things, if you look on our city website, we got a brand new city website because we wanted to increase our communication, because we wanted to make sure people were seeing what was going on in the community. Look at mine, go to Teri Lachermeier, the mayor. Everything that's going on in our community is on my site. I do it every quarter. I used to put them in the utility bills, but now they're electronic and nobody ever looks at them. So I thought I'm gonna put it here, let them know it's available. Please go to my Facebook page or Buffalo, City of Buffalo. We list things that are going on. We tell you ahead of time. We're trying to engage them through flash vote. We're trying to engage them through social media. We're even doing Twitter, believe it or not, Buffalo, City of Buffalo. So trying to engage people is the key. We just got to start young. Keep moving.
All right, so I'm kind of new here, but how would you encourage small business growth here in Buffalo?
You guys are asking all my favorite questions. I love small business growth, and I will tell you how I encourage it. When I hear that someone's interested in a business in Buffalo, I say, hey, David, can you introduce me to that person who's interested? He goes, sure, when do you want to meet? Let's meet downtown. Let's meet somewhere where we can show them what's going on. And we can walk around and show them a spot that might work for them. David always has a list of places that are open. He's introduced me, and prior to his position, I had another person who was introducing me to the business owners. I sit down with them, I hear about their enthusiasm, and I put the fire right underneath it, give them all the places they need to talk to. I get them I get them connected with our we've got an HRA that helps with those small businesses for loans. I did it with Parisians. She wanted to look into a business loan, connected her with the HRA. She got a small business loan through them. There's ways that we can connect the pieces, but we got to kind of know who's wanting it. And I know that a couple of years ago, we set up our website to show the different districts of Buffalo. And then we put who's empty. And that's how we filled some of them. We had the empty places available. And when people came to the city, we could show them what was available. That's how we filled up some of these businesses that weren't probably going to come because they didn't even know how to do it. So that's how you engage them. You make sure they know who to talk to, when, where, and how, and why. Thank you.
So to start, starting up a small business is difficult. Starting up any size of business is difficult. And what I want to do is I want to have the city create a checklist. You do these things, your business in Buffalo. Let's make life simple for the people who are already having to juggle, trying to find some place, trying to find employees, trying to be able to find things to be able to make whatever it is, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's just a little shop, whether it's someplace trying to manufacture goods. Life should be simpler from your government side. Let's start taking away some of these barriers at this point. Let's find an easier way to be able to let people come on in and say, yes, this is what I need, this is what I need, this is what I need, instead of having to come back over and over. A simple checklist, in my mind, it is the fastest way. The second way is to start getting that debt paid down. Let's find a way to be able to make the cost of utility bills and the cost of taxes a little bit lower. Right now, it consumes about 40% of our annual budget. And if we can bring that down, we can start bringing down taxes. We can start bringing down utilities. I know there are businesses in the Wright County area that have moved out of Buffalo because it just became too expensive. If we can start dropping some of those rates, start dropping taxes, start dropping utility rates so it's easier to be able to fund your business, there's more money in your pocket at the end of the month, I think we're going to start to see more growth.
Who's next? Okay.
moved here 11 years ago, and because I'm a retired pilot, I spent some time out at the airport. And at that time, and so for some time after that, there was an atmosphere of antagonism between the city and the airport. And in fact, one person said that the airport is just a playground for the rich. And so, and I also know that there was industry that left town, that went elsewhere, rather than choose Buffalo because of that attitude. So I'd just like to know, do you think an airport is an asset to the city, or is it just a playground for the rich?
I think it's a total asset to the city. And I think it's brought businesses to our community. I have always, and by the way, we make money on that airport, and we don't have to pay a ton to maintain it because we get funds given to us to make sure we maintain it. So a very low percentage of what you guys pay out of taxes go towards that airport, but yet it does bring people to our community. You have your annual fly-in. We've had it here for the last 3 years. I attended the very first year. It was amazing. People from all over Minnesota came to our airport, and they had all through the airport, you could go to little venues and find out what's going on in aviation. I think that I would have never considered it to be a rich person's playground. It's an asset to the city, much like any other things that are within a city. Sometimes golf course, not so much for a city, but I think an airport is definitely an asset, and I believe that there was personality issues between a city staff. He's retired. Love him dearly, but they just did not get along. The manager of the one of the businesses in the airport, but very well. We are honored to have the airport, and that they bring events to our city, and they bring people to our city, and I think it brought you to our city. So I thank you for coming 11 years ago. Thanks for the question.
So an airport is an asset, and these days, one of the most interesting things in industry are drones. And I think we could really leverage our airport to make Buffalo an area where drones can be manufactured and tested. We have an area that's perfect for anybody who wants to start test flights, for people that want to start some sort of business or industry with regards to that, and why not here? I don't know how we've leveraged it in marketing for industry or for commerce, but I definitely think that airport could be easily used to be able to bring in some high-tech industry out here and really start giving an opportunity to have something stamped on a box that says Made in Buffalo.
Okay, who's next?
I have to read my notes.
Can I give it to Michael then first?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's been mentioned many times that we don't have engagement, and a lot of things have been done to let the public know what's going on, and yet it's not working. So I'd like to know, what are we going to be doing, and what are some actions that the city can take to increase that transparency of our city government so that people can become more engaged, because I don't know, it's not working now, so what can we do?
So as I've said before, I want to start finding ways to be able to build within communities little teams of people that are going to regularly bring back the concerns of their neighborhood or be able to talk directly to the city. I want to be able to find a way and make a venue where people are comfortable to be able to come forward and say, this is what we're seeing, this is what's good, this is what's not good, we've got this concern, how can we actually see this? And then I want to have those meetings, if possible, recorded and be able to be put up so that if the city says that we're going to look into something, people should be able to go back and say, well, you said you were going to do this. I want to see citizen boards recorded now. HRA boards aren't recorded. I don't think planning commission boards are recorded. We have the ability to do it. It's 2022. Every single one of those should be recorded, and we should be able to put them up online so that you have a full amount of transparency. Minutes are nice, but sometimes it really helps to be able to watch and hear exactly what was going on and what people were seeing and what they were hearing.
Carrie, can I ask you a question? What are you doing next Tuesday night? What's the date? That would be the 18th. Well, normally when someone wants something, I ask them, what can we do? What would you like us to do? Because really, for me to come up with the answer, I don't think would be a good answer. But I think if I ask you, the person who wants to see the engagement, you give me that information, I invite you in to help come up with the solution. I don't think we should come up with those solutions. I think you should, because you're the ones who really want to know, how do we get the word out? How do we do this? I don't want to come up with it for you because that would be me doing it. It has to come from the community. Again, engagement comes from someone who cares and is passionate about it. That's where it really is meaningful.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've given ideas and they've been.
Then when was that meeting? Because I didn't get to go to that.
Well, no, they weren't from me, but from people around town that say, people aren't gonna read it. I mean, that's the attitude. People aren't gonna read it.
Well, and I think that's a shame because, again, like-minded people, someone who is passionate about something, you bring people together like Jeremiah said, and you're going to get a reaction. When you have the passion, it builds. It's like a fire that you're putting kindling in. Your passion, if you really want it to happen, Carrie, it will. But you just got to keep at it. And that's something I think I've had to do a lot of times over and over again. Keep at it. It's hard. I'm not going to lie to you, but I don't think we should come up with the answer. I think it should come from you because you're going to have the best antidote because you've been out there and you're talking to the people. Some people are afraid to talk to me. I don't know why. I'm pretty easy to talk to. I've had coffee with lots of people, but there might be an intimidation. But if you have an idea, I want to hear about it and I want to try it. I'll be at the meeting, but I can't head the meeting because then it looks like we're doing it. That's all.
So city financials or any governmental financials are very hard to understand for normal people, even though they're on the website. Can you outline, one of the biggest complaints about the city of Buffalo that I hear is that it's throttled with debt. So can you outline what the budget looks like and how you can, how we're going to carve money out to pay off that debt and to accomplish your goals?
Well, Michael, I love the question. There's lots of answers, but our current debt is about $70 million. About 6 years ago, it was $96 million. So I'm telling you, we have done a lot in 6 years. How we've done that? We've really managed how we spend. We make the departments go back to the drawing board when they have maybe an expense that we think can wait. 36% of our budget is safety. I'm not going to deny that that's a large portion, but I think it's worth it. We have about 10.3 million in our general budget, in our general fund, which is what kind of comes from our funding mechanisms, electric, water, sewer, all those things. We do have costs, you guys. It costs to run a city. You have employees. You constantly have health programs that go up in cost. So there's always going to be inflationary things that I think all of you understand and are living. We have to live with that. And I think it's going to be a very strategic, but one thing that I think has come up a lot is growth. I think we have to manage it, but I also think you can't not grow and lower taxes. You can't not grow and make sure that you can pay down debt. A lot of what we lived on back in the 2008 was basically our building permits, 350 of them a year, and then they were gone. And then we used that fund out. It was gone. We had to rebuild it. So right now, we're rebuilding those funds so that they're strong in 20 years, so we don't have to borrow the money for infrastructure. We don't have to borrow the money when we need a repair of some type, or a water treatment facility, or a transformer. You gotta plan for the future, and we really depend on our staff. These studies that we're doing are huge, but really it's about strategy, and we're constantly working on that. Thanks for the question.
So my primary plan is to start going back to the board and taking a look at what we need in order to repair the town. Infrastructure and upkeep, first and foremost. Let's actually take a look at the assets we have, figure out at what rate they're going to need to be replaced, and start creating a rolling plan in order to replace these in an orderly fashion. We don't have that right now. We have some things, we've got a pavement improvement plan, but that's really only taking a look at what's currently the most worst. That's not actually looking at how are we going to replace all the roads in time. We're not really taking a look at how are we going to replace all the water pipes in time. And this might be 50 years, but these costs come up, and we want to be certain that we're not going to have all these costs come up and hit us at the exact same time over and over. So that's the first thing that we start doing, is really getting an understanding of what we're actually going to have to pay in order to keep this city running. And the second thing we do is then we emphasize our pay down of debt. We should be able to get ourselves to a point where it's not consuming $3.5 million out of our annual budget of $10 million, and being able to look around and go, well, where's the money to be able to repair the roads? Where's the money to be able to start saving up for something that we might need in future, for infrastructure, for electrical, for a community center, for whatever it might be? We need to be able to pilot ourselves and exercise fiscal restraint, because we might be in a situation where we have a AA- rating, but that just means we're good at paying off our debt. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're able to get rid of that debt and keep that debt away. And I want to see us get to a point where we start moving in that direction and we pay off our debt, and we only look at it for extreme cases instead of going, yeah, we got to take out another series of loans this year, another series of bonds.
Did anybody else before? If it doesn't, there it goes. If it doesn't work, then it's not going to go in any RWC.
Well, that'd be okay.
So that's what it is.
You've made mention the city is 70 million in debt. It's known that city golf courses cost cities money, that they don't make any money. So with that said, Teri, why did it take the city until 2022 to sell the golf course? And Jeremiah, what would you have done differently?
Does he go first?
You do. He goes after you.
First of all, I'm going to say something about our budget. Jeremiah, you said it's 10 million, right?
We had a $10 million annual budget this year.
We have a $52 million annual budget. Our general fund is 10 million. So little difference in numbers there. But I'll tell you a little bit about the golf course. I was on the council when we actually purchased the golf course. It was hell, people. There was 100 people in this room, and they all wanted that golf course because they didn't want to lose the tax base. It was hell. It was pressure from both sides. But we realized an asset at the time, we didn't want to lose it to people coming to Buffalo. So we bought a golf course. Was that a good decision? I can't back off. I can't back out of it. It was made. Did it make money? No. Was it entertainment? Yeah. Did it bring development to Buffalo? I was told yes, and I can prove that a lot of people came to Buffalo because of the golf course. Because basically you take them out there and you show them that green space and they go, wow, that's here? That's amazing. I said this last night, COVID was a blessing in disguise. Whoa, the golf course was in the black for 2 years. And that was when we knew we had to put it out there. We had to get someone. So we did, we looked at it. We had 5 offers come in. We thought they'd be lease offers. They were purchase offers. 2 lease, the rest were purchase. We got more than what we had appraised for. It was timing. And it is, you don't know how I was praising God for that day when we sold the golf course. Not that I am sad that we're going to have that golf course. People still have the tax base. It's going to be a golf course. We didn't lose those people who were so mad that it might have been developed. So it's still a golf course. I'm thankful for that. And now it's on the tax roll. Yay! That's the news I have. Is that okay? We'll hand it over.
So there are times to take assets on, and there are times to take assets off. And after 2008, when we started seeing the real downturn, we had an opportunity, and the golf course was had. But as time went on, what we found was that people still wanted to come to Buffalo no matter what. Today, people are beating down the door to be in this town. $9 million of debt from that golf course, and we sold it for about $2 million. The time to get rid of it was long ago. We really needed to take a look at what is it actually bringing in. If people were willing to buy it a year or two ago, I don't think they'd be foolish enough to go, well, COVID's going to be around forever, and therefore it's going to keep on making money because people are going to have to go outside to be able to play golf. They realized it was an asset, and we held on for it for far, far too long. And we had to keep on pumping money into it year after year after year. And now we're going to be paying that down for years to come at this point. And it's going to be a burden on our necks. We should have gotten rid of it years ago.
Okay, who's next? He's already had one question. He'll come later. Bring it up close to your mouth.
Okay. I've got a big mouth anyway, so. My question is about safety, and I'm not even sure if I'm thinking straight on this, but it sounds like there's been a lot of focus on safety, but then with that shooting that happened at the clinic, evidently there's a loophole somewhere, and I'm wondering where that loophole might be.
So from what I understand, Gregory Ulrich was a man who had restraining orders placed on him over and over and over by judges in this county. How he managed to obtain licensure after that to be able to purchase is a serious question, and one that I still to this day don't actually know that answer. And if that's the case, as somebody who owns firearms, who enjoys using firearms, I would love to know that myself. Because if there is that situation where somebody who has been effectively determined to be a legitimate crazy person who's going to go out and do something that's going to kill people, and we already have these guards in place, what guards failed? And that needs to be brought forth, and we need to address it. Because if it's not, then you're setting up for failure for the next time around.
A number one problem in our society today is mental health. Mental health has been plaguing us for years. Has it been addressed? A little. We have more counselors, right? But Buffalo's thinking proactively. We started Buffalo Strong because of an event. Buffalo Strong is now going to focus on mental health and wellness for Buffalo. We're going to talk about it. We're going to have counselors involved. We have different events that we share annually. We have people come in and speak about mental health. We've got mental health aid for adults. You can go and take a class through our Wright County Mental Health. And you, if you're a business owner or if you're just a pedestrian out there, you can learn the signals to look for when it comes to mental health. We offered it to businesses in Buffalo right after the event. Some took it, some didn't. Again, another engagement thing. You can offer it. You can't, you can bring them to the water, but you can't make them drink. But we're going to continue to work on the mental health of our community. I know that maybe doesn't stop what happened, but I think if we don't start thinking about mental health in general, it won't matter who got the permit, who had the restraining order, because that's past, that's over. We can't look back, but we can look ahead. And as a city, we're being proactive about it. I can tell you we work with our police department. They're getting training on it. We actually got a dog named Luna for their mental health, for our police officers' mental health, because we know that every day they face some of those tragedies, and we don't want them in, we got it? Oh. So I hope that helps, but mental health is the key, and we need to keep addressing it.
Who's next? You're up, Teri.
All right. So I've been involved in this community for a long time. I've been involved with the Wright County GOP for over a decade. I really care about this community. So to not sound biased, because Teri is my mom, I will ask the exact same question I asked to the commissioner candidates. And that is, I have been a part of this community for a very long time. I've started nonprofits, 31 years plus. I've been involved. What have you done in the community to be invested in this community?
Well, the list is very long and it is deep and it has been going on my entire life. It is in my blood. I'm invested at, I think I explained, ever since 7th grade, high school, college, church, city. I've worked with all different types of organizations in Buffalo. I think really getting embedded in the community means collaborating with the people that can help you make a difference. So I collaborate with the schools, the county, the state, the community, and honestly, if I could think of a key to getting other people to feel how I feel about being engaged, everyone would be engaged, because it's the giving that you receive, and people would get, if they get that feeling, it's like a drug. You want more. All you want to do is be more involved and help people more. So my depth of involvement has been there since the beginning, and I've kind of passed it on to Dustin. He loves being involved, and I hope that the rest of my kids and I hope my grandchildren are involved in this community like I have been, because it has been a blessing, and I loved every minute of it. Thank you.
So I haven't lived here my entire life, but when I came here, a couple citizens came around to my door and said, "Hey, there's something going wrong in town. We've got a concern. Are you interested?" And then I started talking with them, and then I started getting involved in local government to figure out what's going on. And the more and more as time went on, I found that nobody in the general populace had an accurate idea of what the heck is actually going on with their local government. They don't know what a TIF district is. They don't know how rates are calculated. They don't know how infrastructure is built. So one of the things I started doing is I started going to every single city council meeting that I could, and then I started writing it up over and over and over in plain English so the average person would be able to look at it, understand what happened, and be able to have an idea of what's going on. My desire is to be able to make it so much easier for an average person who doesn't know what's going on to be able to read something and go, now I got an idea. I don't know what a TIF district is. Now I do. How are we using them? Here's all the different places. What's this zoning mean? Here, here, and here. Easy understanding. And then I've gone on and I've gone into various groups. I've gone to local churches. I've gone to other organizations, and I've brought that information forward. People who had no idea how state politics works, how local politics works. I've gone out and I've shared that expertise because I really want to see, again, this place stay the kind of town where you want to be in, because you know what's going on, because it's your town, because it's a part of you, because you've spent a part of your soul, a part of your life here, and it makes sense to be able just to continue to be part of it.
Jeremiah for organizing the cleanup at Veterans Park, Memorial Park, and redoing those stones and just making it look better. It's an area that's been ignored and that I myself have contacted the city with to clean it up. Thank you for finally doing that.
Any question?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if this is a question for you guys or not, but as a new resident of Buffalo with lots of grandchildren, I wondered if there's any plans for, there's not a lot of playgrounds. There's one main one that I know about, and then Promise Park happened, which has been a real blessing, but that's made by the church. Or inside playground areas, community center where there's more things to do, especially in the wintertime. And also getting back to the leadership thing, or how to get people involved. And when we lived in Minnetonka, we had, well, it's all over the country, I think. It's neighborhood night out. I'd like to see some leadership maybe where, and I do think it comes from leadership, getting people involved and when we have neighborhood night out, you can invite a policeman, you can invite firemen, whatever. How about inviting people from the city and saying, to get a feel for what's going on in your neighborhood.
You guys comfortable? You want to break
So
it into two
the short,
questions?
I think I can give you, it's two things, but I'll answer the first one. The first one, you're asking about parks and things for kids, right? So this is an issue that's near and dear to my heart because my own daughter is about a year and a half old. Promise Park is the single greatest thing that ever happened in her entire life, as far as she's concerned. And the question I have for you is, what area of town do you live in? So Trappers Pond Park isn't that far away from you, I think. And I know that there's a park on the eastern side as well. There's apparently a park in every single area, and I know that there are plans to improve some of them. But I know as well, having gone to some of these parks, that sometimes they need a little bit more maintenance. I would love to see a way to get the community activated and interested in adopting a park, being able to go out, having people who are responsible to just go out and take a look. If there's damage, if there's vandalism, if there's graffiti, have an easy way to let these people, let the city know, here's this issue here, here's this issue here, when can you guys take a look at it? And then getting back to them to make certain that there's always somebody who has an extra set of eyes on those parks. As for indoor spaces, 100%. We're actually a little bit terrified of what our almost 2-year-old daughter is going to do when she finds out that she has to get bundled up in all sorts of clothes to go out and run outside. I would love to see, in time, a community center of some sort. I would love to see an indoor space where people can gather because 6 months of the year, it's cold. People have been talking about it for years, and the city has said, well, let's keep on waiting. Let's keep on waiting. Plans have come up and said, let's build it. But those plans have over time been delayed and deferred. I want to start looking at a plan now, and I want to start looking at how do we incrementally build it. Do we start up plans now? Do we then start saving money in a specific fund for a community center? I'm interested to start having that conversation and moving forward because in a community of almost 16,000 people, we need something for winter, especially for kids, for teens, and for seniors.
First of all, welcome to Buffalo. We have 27 parks in our city, and they're all adopted by those communities. We have a lot of kids that go out there. I drive by them when I'm on the trails. We have trails through Buffalo. One of the greatest things is we have a group working towards putting in a water splash pad out on West Pulaski. It's gonna be a fundraising event. There's a little city funds, but we've looked at some grants and we're hoping to see them. It's about $250,000, but it's gonna be a great park out there. And I think your grandkids would love it. They probably would love our little splash pad downtown too. But honestly, I know we deserve a community center. And the reason we put it off is because of debt. We're not gonna create debt when you want us to get rid of it. But what we will do is eventually we will bring it up to the taxpayers. We will bring it up on a ballot. And if it is voted on that they want it, that's when a city council should decide on something like that. But I think we're doing little things, and I want to invite you to our community center over here. It's small. It's not the greatest place in the world when it comes to a big, huge space. But Adam and Teri have created an environment where you can bring your kids and there's things for them to do. Please go and check it out. I've seen young kids down there. Every time I've gone down there now, there's always events going on. So check out our community center. We're also having, on the 21st of October, we're having a Oktoberfest in the old fire station for families. So please bring your grandkids there. It's a great opportunity for them to meet other kids. But we have 27 parks in our city, and I would love to see a community center someday. Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Here we go.
Do we own the city or the liquor store in our town? And if so, where does that money go?
We do. Our liquor stores are both municipal, and all of the profits go towards our parks. Every bit of it.
What are those profits?
$400,000 a year. And that's what we'd like to make. Do we always make it? No, but during COVID, we made about $500,000. So we did really well for a couple of years, but yeah, parks. That's what it's designated for. And we feel like that's a great thing, because if you've got a municipal, you better give it back to the people. And I think it's a great way to fund those 27 parks and make sure that you have activities for your community to enjoy community.
So we may own the municipal liquor stores, but at the end of the day, are we then also attempting to deny liquor permits to other places? Would Cub want to sell liquor? Would Trader Joe's want to sell liquor? We don't have a grocery store in downtown anymore, and that's been a very, very serious issue for the seniors that live in this area. Currently, there's no place to actually get medicine or groceries this side of 55 for anybody who has to be able to walk. And if you don't have that, where are we actually spending our time and energy then? If you don't have people who are, I hear people are going to the holiday station in order to buy their groceries. If that's the state this has gotten to, and Trailblazer will only allow you to take on 2 bags, so you can't actually, if you're a senior, you go shopping once a month, twice a month, because you're on a fixed budget. You can't, a month's worth of groceries doesn't fit in 2 bags. So we may own the liquor stores, but at the end of the day, the liquor store is one thing. We really need to be more addressing what our town actually needs in this area instead.
So this one's more for Jeremiah, but how much do you plan on decreasing our utilities as well as our taxes?
So specifically for utilities, the city has a certain amount of debt laid on those utilities from the golf course, from improvements, from other things. I want to get that debt paid down. And the second thing I want to do is I want to start taking a look at other options for utility companies. We own our own. We go through MMPA. Are these the wisest decisions to do? Is this actually where we should be getting our electricity from? Those are questions that need to be put on the table and investigated. Second thing is for taxes, let's start bringing down that debt. If we can bring down that debt from being as high as $70 million, from making those payments year after year after year, there's undoubtedly a chunk that you can take out of them.
Well, I'll never make promises that will lower taxes. I can't make that promise. We're a portion of the taxes that you pay, and we're the lowest portion, but we give you the biggest bang for your buck. Utility bills, there's things we can do. There's things we can do. Can I tell you how much? Not today, because right now, natural gas is at its biggest high in 14 years. The whole entire country is suffering from the cost of natural gas. I can't change what the state does. I can talk to them about it. I can't change what federal government does, but I can handle what we can do, and we can always look at our rates. We always compare ourselves to Right-Hennepin and to Excel, and we make sure that we're lower than them, if not the same. So those are things that we will continue to look at, and we will always optimize our budget, and we will make sure that we're planning, and we'll make sure we're educating, whether it be educating the public on conservation. I know we hate that word, but if we can tell people the optimal times to use certain appliances in their household and it'll save them money, I think that's a good education. So that's the ways that we can. There's so many more, and we're working on them, I tell you. But I do love our partnership right now with MMPA. I think we're with a good partner. They're very strategic. We had really great years, and yes, we are feeling some pain right now. But I do believe it'll come around, and they're thinking of innovative ways to make sure that those costs come down as well. So we'll continue to work on that. But I will tell you, to promise to lower taxes, you guys, inflation, there's always going to be a raise in costs. And you guys, our city employees don't want to take the hits all the time. They want to see increases. We want good staff. We want to make sure we pay them equally to other cities. So taxes are based on a lot of what the services that we provide. And I want you to have quality services. So I won't promise to lower taxes. I'll promise to always work towards lowering the debt. And we will always look at those utility rates, and I'll do everything I can. I'm just like you. I'm paying those taxes. I'm paying those utilities. I want them lower. Thank you.
Okay,
Who has a question? Yes, sir.
Yeah, for both of you. There are a lot of people, kids in the community late at night. How would you find a way for kids to not be home at a decent time? And then saying nothing good happens after midnight. So what are your solutions about that? We got parks, we got different places to go, but people hanging out at Target parking lots or Walmart. So, thank you.
How would you like us to solve that problem?
Find a solution for kids to be somewhere else, not out on the street.
I would agree with you 100%. Parenting. I call it good parenting, you know? And having a good safety in place, like curfew. I can't stop kids from doing bad things. We obviously have had some graffiti in downtown. We have a zero tolerance for graffiti, and we prosecuted for it, by the way. We did catch those youngsters that did that graffiti. I can't parent for you or any of the people in the community, but I can provide a good, safe place with law enforcement that will make sure that if they've done something wrong, they pay the consequence. Can we provide good places? That's something I'd like to hear from you. I can help you make it happen, but I probably can't come up with all the solutions. It's got to come from the public. A lot of what you guys want is communication. I need you to communicate with me. What do you want? I can tell you a lot of things, but they won't get done if I do it because it can't come from council. It has to come from the people who put us in the position. So you give the ideas, and I'll help make it happen if we can.
So the first thing I would do is if we're finding kids that are regularly hanging out there, this town does in fact have a curfew, let's take a look at the license plate numbers that we can get and start calling up their parents and asking them, you know your kids are actually out here hanging out? Let's find a different place for them to go to. Let's open up Sturgis possibly for later hours at night. Keep the areas open. Let's start engaging with the high school or with local churches and start having a list of places where people can go. These are events that are going on, and then telling parents, you know, your kid's out late at night. Here are opportunities that they have to be able to go here, 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 or there. Really going and talking to people, they go, my kid wants to go play basketball. My kid wants to go out and hang out with his friends. Basketball, I just found out last night from city councilman that apparently we have a high school that has open hours. That parent didn't have a clue about that, and that's why they're asking for a community center. Maybe there are ways to be able to lessen the pain on people who are going, I need some place for my teenager to go get some steam off, especially in the middle of winter. Here is a solution. There's a solution. People are telling us a problem, and I want to be proactive. I don't want you to have to come up with a solution yourself. I'm willing to meet you halfway and be able to say, these are ideas that I have. Let's figure out what solution works best in this situation.
Who has a question? Okay. I was heading that way anyway.
Okay, I just come up with one here about a week ago. It come down that Buffalo Lake has now gotten zebra mussels in it, which somehow I find that kind of convenient since last spring. They just discovered them over in Pulaski. And then during the summer, I found out that now Pulaski area, the pump there is going to have to put in a filtration system in order to pump that water over to Buffalo. And somebody all of a sudden says, well, Buffalo has zebes, they don't have to filter it. I guess my question is, This is going to be another one on the city to have to come up with for trying to take care of that. It's kind of one of those that we're going to have to, maybe have to go and put some extra funding apart. But that's one of those that we also have to go and take a look at our lakes around here, because I know I have several guys that also come around the area and they will not come to Buffalo Lake because it's so green. So I think that's part of our city thing, what we can do about that.
So in short, you're talking about lake maintenance? So I know there's been a great deal of angst coming from the LID district, from the Lake Improvement District around Pulaski, specifically because of zebra mussels and the fact that for many years, Lake Pulaski has been pumped over into Lake Buffalo when it gets too high. Because if it gets a little bit higher, people's houses start getting flooded. The DNR specifically says you cannot pump zebra mussel infected water into another body of water, even if that body is already infected. I would prefer to try and go and talk to the DNR. It may seem like a fool's errand, but I think it's time to actually start taking a look at this. We're not going to be able to prevent this forever from anywhere, and if it's already there, there's nothing we can do about it. The DNR is very against using chemicals in order to get rid of zebra mussels, so there's not really a solution. So then how do we start to work within it? As for Lake Buffalo turning green, I would love to see the ability to invest into something to be able, it's milfoil that tends to turn it green, or something else? Curly pondweed. I believe there are devices that are able to help clean up some of that, but if we're going to try and embark on something along those lines, this is really a thing that we need then buy-in from both the township and from the county, because the city of Buffalo doesn't own the entire lake. We only own a chunk of it, and this is really a whole area effort to be able to get this cleaned up and be able to continually do maintenance on it in order to refresh that lake.
You're 100% right, DNR. DNR makes the decisions about these things. I think it's important to know, though, that the LID is very proactive because they're very concerned about their lake, and they should be. It's a great recreational lake, and the taxes on that lake are more than I would want to pay. So we want to make sure that we keep these lakes, right? That's a big deal. I think LIDs are a big part of a city. I think when you have a lake improvement district and you have buy-in from the people in the lake, they're willing to help with the investment. And I can tell you, we got a $300,000 grant from the county for this project. We're working with the LID. The city has not committed to anything, but we are working with the DNR right now. We feel that we can, our engineers working with the DNR to find out if there are some things. You're right. We didn't know that if zebra mussels happened in Buffalo, we thought, well, why not just pump then? Why not? But the fact is there's still going to be a problem with the pump. The pump is where the problem is, you guys. If those zebra mussels get within that pump, we have to lift the pump out every single time and clean it, and it's very expensive. So we've got to think of a solution that's a little grander that will take care of the big solution. So I believe there should be a LID on Buffalo Lake, which is a Lake Improvement District, which is involving the people that live there. There's been tons of interest. We've had people engage, and they've been to the LID meeting over at Pulaski. I think that's where it has to come from. Will the city take a part? I think we will. Now, we've had a couple council members that said, no, why should we? But I think you got to remember, when you have a tax base, it's 8% of our tax base, by the way, Pulaski's. 8%, yes.
I got one other question on that. Since it's actually pumping water from Buffalo to Pulaski, it's actually...
Pulaski to Buffalo, yeah.
From Pulaski into Buffalo, that what happens is it could end up clogging up your pipes downstream in town here.
Yes.
Now, one of the things since I've been here 19 years, I want to know, how come somebody that just lives in town can not go and be a part of their group?
Their LID?
Yeah.
You can go to the annual meeting.
I've tried going, and since I don't live on the lake, I'm not allowed.
You might not be able to speak because they pay dues for that, but when I go, I see other people from the community at the annual meeting. So I would go to the annual meeting. They won't not let you come in. It's at Wico's, and it's every year, and it's sometimes heated, and sometimes it's, especially at the city, because before we were trying to prevent zebra mussels, we were engaging with the inspectors. We helped with the costs of the inspections, and the lid paid a portion of it. So we're keeping with that, even though we know we have zebra mussels, just to prevent further. But we want to keep working towards it. But great question.
All right. Who has a question? I know, Joe, you probably have a question. You started. Who has a question? All right.
Apparently there was a plan a couple years ago to do a lot of road maintenance that quite possibly did not pan out. And now a survey has been conducted to check it out again. Why is it going to work this time when it did not work last time?
You go first, Teri.
Okay. So you're talking about the maintenance street plan. We're doing it for like the first time in 7 years, a new one. We had a plan in place, but we didn't have enough money to fund it. We were funding it at $150,000 a year. It needed to be at $500,000 a year. It needed to be at $750,000. So we got 5 years behind in our plan. That's why we need to get the plan in place so that we know what roads will be next. And now we're funding it annually in our budget for $500,000. So did we get behind? Yeah, a lot of things happened during that time. We had COVID. We had to really rearrange how we did a lot of things in the city. And we really didn't do probably the proper maintenance that we would have normally done, just because we were short-staffed a lot of the time. So a lot of what happened was during COVID, and that plan probably needed to be done a couple of years ago, and it wasn't. And now we're doing it, and it's going to be up to date within 5 years. We have a plan in place to make it up to date, but we need to know what order, which ones are the worst, which ones need the most help, and what type of help do they need. We need that from the experts. And once we get that, which I think it'll be done in a month or two, so we'll have that. We've already got the budget in place that will okay in December, but it's in place. So $500,000 a year we'll put into that rather than the low amount, the higher amount. Does that help a little bit? Thank you.
So if we make a plan, as city officials, we should be expected to hold to that, or if not, be able to come out and say, this is where we are with the plan, this is how we're going to get back on track. Didn't happen last time. This time around, this is where the plan is, this is what's been done at this point, this is what's scheduled, and you can have an idea of exactly what sections and what areas are going to be on the plate, what's next, what's in the budget, how are we keeping to it, and then how are we going to get back on track. Some roads in town are in really good shape. Other roads have effectively become gravel. As I was walking over around North Pulaski area, roads over there, I mean, it's easy enough just to be able to look down and you can probably see dirt on some of them. So being able to be, what's the right word? Accountable to people. Being able to say to people, this is what we're planning to do here, here, and here. Now hold us accountable, and if not, let us know we're not doing it right, and we'll tell you how we're going to get back on track. That's my intention for this plan.
Okay, who has a question? Okay, Michael?
So public safety is one of the primary issues facing any city, right? We recently built the new fire station. Would you have supported that, or Teri, why did you support that? And what do we need to do to support our public safety officials, both at the police department and the fire station in the years to come? What are the big issues? Thank you.
So the fire department, talking to Chief Harnois, was needed because the town has just grown and grown and grown and grown, and we needed some more than the couple little bays that we have attached to this specific building in order to house modern fire trucks. Would I have built so big? Don't know. I'd have to go back and I'd have to take a look at the original projections. But that aspect of safety is required. I just went through a walkthrough of the police department, and I've talked to them, and they're interested in seeing something a little bit more. I'd love to try and figure out what specifically are their needs. What's the right way to be able to do this? Do they need a second building? Is there a building that can be repurposed in town for a very low cost? Or do we have to start thinking about and planning for the long term of how are we going to be able to make certain that we're going to be able to have enough space to house officers? We work with the Sheriff's Department. We work with Highway Patrol. They have offices in there as well. We need to make certain that our options are open, and we need to be able to plan for that for the future, which means actually sitting down and taking a good hard look and being able to put down those numbers and decide when we're going to be able to pull the trigger.
It's a great question because I absolutely back that fire station. And a main reason we built it, it's built for the next 100 years. And we needed our 100-foot aerial ladder to be on this side of town because a lot of our density is over here. So with it being on the other side of town, we were putting these buildings in grave danger of not being able to make it on this side of town. So that was a big reason why we built it. Safety was the next reason. Our fire volunteers were putting their equipment away and not getting cleaned properly, and we were causing probably some health conditions that we didn't even realize until we started getting, maybe we were being told by them and by other fire departments that, hey, you guys need proper facility. We've put in state-of-the-art facility to protect them and make sure that for the future, it is built for 100 years of Buffalo. As for the police station, great question as well. We just did a study of our facilities, and that study is going to be presented to us in the next month or two, and it'll tell us exactly where we need to build, where we need to improve for our safety features, whether it be our fire department or our police department. But the police department was in the study, so we'll get to see those numbers. It tells us what we need for the future growth, what we would need for a certain amount of officers. So there's definitely, that'll be presented, and it'll be presented in a way that we can plan. So those building facility studies are a great thing for city, especially for us who need to know what needs to be done when, and then city staff can plan in budgeting. So thank you for the question.
Police departments. We have a brand new government center and we have an old government center. Is there not a way to put the police in that old one instead of building new?
So the government center, the sheriff's office, is that what you're referring to? Or putting them over in this building? I see what you're saying. Not been discussed, but there is a lot of space over there. So and they did take over our space over here, the old fire department. They'll be parking their cars in there this winter, so we're going to utilize the space. I think that's a big deal because it really, maintenance a vehicle, making sure you can keep them up. That's a great place to have because we didn't have that before, indoor parking. It's not a bad idea. It's something that hasn't been talked about, but I like that. Great thing for us to bring about. Yeah. Thank you.
I'd be interested in trying to find out just how much of that we'd be able to repurpose and reuse. Because right now, a lot of people are looking at that area and saying, what kind of vision do we have for that? Personally, I think it's one of the most beautiful places in all of Buffalo. You have an absolutely gorgeous view overlooking the lake. And I want to make certain that the decision we make is the right one. Maybe we can use it as temporary, but if we're going to do something for the long term, I'd like to make certain that it's affordable. One of the reasons why people moved out is because it's full of mold, HVAC needs to be updated, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of maintenance need to be done to it, and I don't want to endanger the lives of the people who are working every day to keep me safe in order to just find an extra place to put them in. So if we're going to do it, let's do it right. And let's make sure that it's the right option instead of going ahead, blindly charging in, then finding out later down the road, we should never have done this in the first place.
Question? Go back here.
I've heard some recent questioning and concerns about the 5G towers that seem to be coming up within the community, and just wondering how the city is involved in the choices of where they're going and who's putting them up and things like that.
So I'm not aware at this point of anything the city has done. Doesn't mean they haven't done anything yet at this point, but it's something I'd like to know. I know the FCC or other government regulatory agencies are starting to take a look once again at the causes and effects of radiation and different things that it can do. So it's something that I'd like to at least have a discussion on specifically with new findings as they come out. And if people have concerns, I'd like to be able to try and figure out how to be able to address those specific concerns.
I'm not aware of any 5G towers, but we have fiber in Buffalo, so we're putting it in the ground. We're making sure. What was that? You know, I will say that we leased some of our street lights for cell phone towers, but I don't know anything about 5G, so I'm sorry I can't answer that question, but it is a good one and we should look into it.
Speaking of that government center over there that's not being used, or not the way it should be, or how it was intended, thoughts on the plan, and maybe the mayor of Buffalo can't really do much about it, but thoughts on the county's proposal to turn that into a whole bunch of apartments, some condos it looks like, stuff like that.
So you're right, the county currently owns the property, but city has the zoning. We get to zone what is currently B5 and R2, single-family homes, and B5 is a business district. So the part where the courthouse is business district, and over on the parking lot, that's R2, so it's single-family homes. So right now, that's the way it's zoned. It would have to be rezoned, and that's why the county isn't getting anyone looking at it, because they really can't do anything with it. They got one bid, and it was a penny from our BCA, our Buffalo Community Arts. So I will say that I have some thoughts of what I've heard, and I think probably should happen, because I think it'll be good for our community. I think we should move 35, and I think that should be green space so that people can enjoy the lake more, and that should be community. But whatever the county decides to bring in, I think it should be something that we can enjoy. I would love to see retail and restaurant. I would love to see a venue overlooking the lake. I would love to see some things that we can all enjoy and utilize that are needed in the community. And we really do need a venue that houses big events. We have a few in town, but they're very small and they're not something that we can be super proud of. I would love to see a hotel maybe up there with a venue next door. Wouldn't that be cool? Something but green space so people can be by the lake. I can't decide. All we can do is zone it. So it's going to be up to the bigger picture. But I do want to see green space off 35, because I don't think that road needs to be there anymore. As long as the courthouse isn't there, it can be utilized in other places. Thank you.
So zoning isn't difficult to change. It goes before the planning commission, then comes before the board. Multiple times as I've sat in meetings, I've heard discussions on, can we change this zoning, can we not? And it's as simple as, does the council agree, does the council disagree, and then the zoning is changed to where it's not. So to say that zoning is the major holdup, I don't think that's the case. I think it's the reinforced concrete, I think it's the mold, I think it's the deconstruction cost of that building, because it's very, very expensive to take it down. I've seen the original RFP document, request for proposal document, put out by the Economic Development Commission, and I'm concerned of having 5- and 6-story apartment blocks right on the edge of the lake. I'm not saying we don't need places for people to live. We do. And there are aspects specifically of 3-bedroom apartments that might be looked into, or things of that nature, that there might still be a hole that this town needs to address. But I don't think necessarily that putting large apartment blocks down on the lake or anything like that would necessarily be a good fit. Personally, I'd love to see some sort of smaller space. I'd love to see restaurants. I'd love to see a community center in time put there. Might be a viable location. I think that was in the 2040 plan that was talked about previously. I really want to see whatever goes in there, making sure that it's useful to Buffalo. Green space is wonderful. Sturgis is right down the way, and that's a big plot of land. It doesn't necessarily have to be used in one specific thing at any given time.
somebody had a question back here. Who did? Okay. It's always good to have spontaneity.
Just a sidebar, first of all, I think before you develop the courthouse, the DNR is going to tell you no, it's too close to the lake. I don't know. I think that it's going to put the kibosh to everything. The county should know it. You can't overrule the DNR. How much was? I'm not done. I don't even want to. That wasn't a question. A statement. How much did you say was in that fund for fixing the roads each year?
500,000.
How much is it worth the city to find out whether a piece of cloth is a flag or a sign and how high it can fly? How much money should be spent for that and how much was, if we know? Okay, I'd like to answer.
So the number that I've heard was about $2 million for that court case to go through. The thing that really, really concerned me about that was, from what I understand, that was changing effectively the definition of a law. What the definition of a word was we have what are called beautification laws, which define how things can be specifically look or how they can be placed in Buffalo, and one of the things is signs. And these signs, as you look through, are specifically talking about things like advertising for businesses, things of that nature. And then one day, the city council said, hey, we have a problem. Hereafter, all flags are signs. More than anything else, that's a deep, deep concern to me. Because I've now seen, actually just walking down the hall right before this meeting, there's a list of all the different changes that are going to be made to ordinances. There is a way to actually change laws and do it in a legal fashion. That didn't happen. One day we said, this is this, this is that. And as far as I know, it was only ever pursued in one case. Because I took a look at that law, and every single Marine Corps flag, every single Pride flag, every flag, except for the ones specifically denoted by the city attorney, specifically American flags, or state of Minnesota flags, would have violated that. Our own city flag would have then violated that. And it was just pushed through. We spent a ton of money. We lost on that specific point. Other points the city was upheld on. But why? Was it worth it? As I go and I talk to people now, they say, oh, we're the town of hate. And I look at that and I go, you're nuts. But was it really worth creating this giant fracas, for lack of a better term, over this specific thing?
Bob, I can always count on you for entertaining. $2 million? Where did you get that number?
On appeals, is what I heard.
No. I am so sorry that you got that number. It was $8,500 over 2 years. Our entire attorney bill for 2 years was $135,000 for everything that the city did in the last 2 years. No matter what it was, if it was some reason the attorney had to show up at a meeting, we spent $135,000 in 2 years for attorney fees, including all the things they do with our courts when we have tickets and things like that. $2 million? I am so sorry that you got that information. That is so wrong. $8,500. And I will tell you one other thing. You hired me to follow the ordinances, and that's what I did. Thank you. You had a question.
My question was because that's what the city put out, but my understanding is when that case was lost, that the city had to pay all of his attorney fees.
Nope. We did not. $8,500 total. Yeah. I think I know about 2 million, and actually, I'm going to be very transparent here. I called and I got the numbers. I thought it might come up. I thought it was going to be like 10 grand, but it was 8,500.
So is information like that on the website?
It certainly is. It'll say our attorney's fees, 135,000, but it'll be year. See, 2 years is the amount of time we spent on it, so it was 8,500 total for the 2 years. But it was 132,000 for 2 years of all of our attorney fees. So 2 million, slap me up. No, 8,500. And I did my job. I followed the ordinance, and that's what you hired me to do.
Yeah, I was going to say, whether we have attorney fees or not, what is happening with not being able to put up certain flags and other flags can be put up? That is not right.
Actually, it was years ago. I'm going to have to give you a little history. Bob was on the council when this happened. We had a gentleman who was a realtor in town, and he loved putting up signs. Like, he'd put 20 signs to an open house. And if you've been in Buffalo, you probably remember his name. But anyway, the signs went all the way down the street. We got so many complaints because he was on council at the time. We started a sign ordinance, and it had to deal with the number of signs. And we basically just outlawed signs, and that became part of what our city wanted to represent. And it never got, no one ever questioned it. What year was that, Bob? Was that 2002? You voted against it? Okay, well, good to know. He knows. I think it was like 2002, something like that, because I was pretty, well, I was on since 99, but it was shortly after. And we did have a lot of kickback about like businesses who wanted to put little signs out. So what we did was we started a little fee that if you wanted to put a little sandwich board out or a sign out, you'd pay a little fee so that we wouldn't have to have the police go out and collect signs. But literally, I'm not lying to you, there was probably 30 signs going to an open house, Bob. It was ridiculous. So the only way we could do it is we had to do it for everybody. We couldn't just do it for one person. So was it extreme? Well, we got a lot of complaints on it back then. So it just would never change. No one's ever come to the council and had the ordinance changed. So I follow it, and that's what it was considered at the time, was a sign. Does that help? A little bit.
Does that include flags on your house?
No, it doesn't. No. And it was a thing with size of a flag or of a sign, because any sign that is a business has to be within a certain perimeter. So sign size was a big part of it too.
So is the ordinance changed now? Or?
It has not. No one come forward and asked to change it. I assumed we'd hear something by now with all that's happened. I mean, it was out there in the news, right? And it was literally before us several times. So I just assumed someone would come up and say, you need to change that. No one came forward. Again, it's a lot of engagement. I mean, Carrie's not wrong. People have to want to make some changes. They have to want to come in and present it, and that's when things change. That should not be our job. We should listen to you. Our job is to listen to our constituents. I should never make decisions on my own. I should make it on your behalf. And that's why when you have an idea, bring it to me. I will try to make sure it gets done or come before council. But thank you.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. So when this started, I decided to go take a look at the ordinances, and I looked up flag. Flag's never referenced anywhere in there. The only thing that's referenced are signs. There's no definition of a sign, but if you hear the historical context, it's specifically talking about business signs of one variety or another. And it doesn't say specifically for a business or for something else. It only says based on the size or the zoning of your property, you can have this kind of sign, you can have this kind of sign, you can't have it on a piece of equipment, you can have it here, things of that nature. The fact that, again, I think as Jay has shown, especially in his latest entry in the newspaper, that he's not necessarily playing with a full box of crayons, the man still has a First Amendment right. And specifically, do we take oaths when you come up? So there's an oath to uphold your rights. It's a First Amendment right. I'm not a huge fan of it at all. Again, you see it for miles everywhere, but at the end of the day, the court ruled he has a First Amendment right.
Just slight introduction, there's a state statute that indicates flag and sign are the same thing, but it got ruled because of First Amendment right, because it's political speech, so it's protected. That's constitutional right, all laws. Sign and flag are the same. sign and flag are the same per state statute that was passed with the legislature.
No, I was asking
Oh,
what
yeah.
you said. Sorry.
But it's a First Amendment deal because it is protected speech as political. That's the reason. Yeah.
Okay.
It goes against the sign ordinance. Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have other questions, Joe, go ahead though. You're first, you haven't asked them yet.
No, I wanted to grab the mic just in case someone had something over here. No? I'll give it back to you, Lane.
Okay. Does anybody else have questions? This is the time to ask. Okay, he's got a question. I'll get back there, Joe, no problem. Of course, he's gonna come to me too.
So earlier there was talks about like drug abuse and all that. I don't know if this is something the city can do or if it's something specifically only the hospital or clinic can do, but maybe we could look into syringe service programs. I hear that's been helping out in other cities as well, so who knows?
So for any kind of abuse like that, I want to make certain that we're actually attacking the root of the problem and not just making it easier to continue the abuse. Specifically, if we're going to have an issue like that at a younger age, let's make certain that people are actually aware this is what it's going to do, this is how it's going to do it to you, and try and provide other alternatives instead of starting this kind of stuff. If we have some sort of mental health initiative going on already, one of the main reasons that's found that people are doing illegal drugs, doing hard drugs repeatedly over and over is they've got issues and they need help. And perhaps it's one of those things that we should be looking at how to reach out to people instead of trying to abet them on that and trying to help find a way to get them on a road to recovery and get them clean again. Sharps program, we've got one apparently. But beyond that, I want to get back to the point and really help this city for people who are really in trouble. You said we had a meth problem in this county. Let's find a way. Do we still have one now? Fentanyl, I know we have.
It's not the way it was. We had meth.
But to put a final point on it, let's try and make certain that we've got a way to be able to really try and treat the root of the problem, the issues these people are having, rather than just you're doing drugs and only looking at the drugs specifically.
META backed the law change of amphetamines being put behind the counter. That was a big initiative by Wright County. Buffalo did that. So we are constantly working on doing those behind the scene things that will prevent things like meth labs in our county. We've got a new recovery center here in Buffalo, right downtown, Anchor Recovery. And they have a little halfway house upstairs now. And we've got a couple of halfway homes in Buffalo for young people that will help them restore themselves in the community, help get them jobs, teach them their finances, to get their driver's license if they need be. We've got things like that in Buffalo. We do have the return your meds to our police department and also the needles, so those things are in place. But there's always room for improvement, but definitely proactive versus reactive is definitely the way we should handle it. Thank you.
Anybody else have a question? Michael, you've had two. Anybody else? Okay.
So, as a council member or mayor, one of the most important parts of your job is working with city staff to implement the things that you pass. So how have you worked with city staff in the past? Do you have good relationships with them? And how do you intend to move forward fostering strong relationships with our staff, but ensuring that they follow the will of the people through the council?
Thank you, Michael. I meet weekly with our administration. I meet every Thursday with our administrator and the administrative assistant. I meet weekly with our chief of police. I meet periodically with our directors of departments, Jason in our utilities. I meet with Lee in our parks. I actually go into some of the buildings and meet with some of the directors because I feel like they're in their space and I want to see how things go. I meet with Adam. I meet with Teri. I meet with Carrie. Usually when I'm meeting with Carrie, I'm bringing her to someone's house and we're checking their water together. So usually some of those things are you need to be a part of. So I work very closely with our staff, whether it be bringing them to someone's house. Today I had a phone call about a tree that's falling, and I had to get in touch with Carrie and get that taken care of, and had to have someone come in and fill a little form to get that tree removed. So working with staff is something I do on a daily basis, but I make it a pledge weekly with the department heads or people that I need to be informed about things. I would love to meet more often with John, our chief, fire chief, but he's a really busy guy, believe it. I mean, he is setting up, they do training all the time, and but I will start now that he has a facility that I can come visit him at. But I think it's important to work with your staff. I think it's important to give them ownership in their jobs, trust them in what they do. They're really the doers, you guys. They do the hard lifting. We just come in and either stamp it or ask more questions. They set up workshops to make sure we're educated. They bring in the professionals. They bring in people that will help us do a better job of making decisions. So being in front of them is important, and I think council's really good about asking questions behind the scenes.
So, not on council yet, not a mayor yet, so the council and the city administration don't really have time carved out for me. But what I've found is that when there are specific questions, as I've worked with people, as I've talked with them, as they've brought concerns to me, the utilities department has been absolutely phenomenal so far. I'll call up Kara, I'll call up Jason. There's time that's available to be able to go out and really start digging in for specifics. And that's really where I like to be. I like to be in details, I like to be in specifics, and I like to be able to figure out what's actually going on. Because then once I've got that figured out, then I can turn around and I can tell the person, this is exactly what we're seeing, this is why we're seeing this. And if for whatever reason they don't have time, they don't have the ability to go have that conversation themselves, again, that's the whole part of being an advocate, being that liaison between city government and the rest of the people, is being able to go out and spread that information. Last year, when there was a severe drought, I was talking to Kara a couple of times. This year, as water restrictions have started to come into place, again, I've been talking to her. When the diagrams came out trying to explain how much water is being used or how much water is being tapped, I was out there asking again because the majority of people don't understand it. I didn't understand it, so I went out and I asked them. Building up that regular working relationship is absolutely critical for any kind of team, especially one on the size of this. We have a phenomenal utility department. Heck, we just sent 2 linesmen down to Florida because they need it. We've got them, and they were willing to go down there. I think it speaks very highly to the quality of people that we employ in this town.
Okay, folks, we're at the getting close to the end, and we want to give each of the candidates an opportunity to give kind of a 2.5 minute closing speech, if you will, about whatever they want to take the 2.5 minutes to talk about. So you went first last time, so you go first this time.
Civic engagement doesn't just stop at the ballot box. It's also going out, it's talking to people, it's talking to your neighbors, finding out what's important, it's talking to the city, it's talking to council members, and organizing and being able to really start telling people in a clear, coherent way, this is what's important. This is a problem. This is not a problem. We need to see this. We need to see that. I'm up here because I want to take another step further beyond that basic level, and I want to be one of the people that you would come and communicate with when you've got that problem. Being a problem solver is one of the things I love doing best. I'm an engineer. I'm a contractor at this point. I've been doing it for a decade. I've worked in fields like defense, medical, all sorts of things like that. These kind of problems are my bread and butter. And having an opportunity to then come out and be able to serve a community where I want to raise my family, that so far has been phenomenal to me, and I want to help guide it on the path to keep it just as good as it is today. That is my promise to you, is being able to get out there and being able to be your liaison, to be your advocate, to really be that person who's fighting for you on city council.
When you come to hire someone, what do you look for? Qualifications. You look for experience, and if you know what they can show, what they've done, I have proven that I have the leadership skills to be the mayor. I worked my way up. I paid the price on council. I was on boards. I understand the way it works. And I don't tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you what you want me to do. Engagement, I wanted 100%. Transparency, I want it. Fiscal responsibility, $16.5 million spent down in 6 years, and that will continue. I will ask you for your approval by the vote on November 8th. If you give it to me, I will prove myself. I will listen to you. I will answer the phone at 2:30 a.m. I will answer the phone at 9 a.m. Ask my husband, he gets so frustrated, please don't answer that phone. And I said, I'll leave the room. I answer the phone, and I will meet with you if you have a problem, and I will help you if I can. And if you need me to do something, I will ask you, what part of it do you want to partake in? Because I need your passion. I will always look for direction from the community. It's not a me position, it's a we position. I love being the mayor. I will continue to be out in the public. I go to events. You see me everywhere. Something that this gentleman said, he goes, I've seen you out and about. Yes, I go to everything because I think it's important to be seen in our community. I think it's important to be involved, and I will stand for you, and I will help you build a community that you can be proud of. And I want the small town Buffalo because it's about you, the community members. It's about Buffalo Strong. It's about caring, connecting, and continuing through tragedy. And we've done it together. We're Buffalo Strong.
So I want to thank Jeremiah Patrick and Teri Lachermeier again. It takes a lot of courage to be up here for almost 2 hours straight of talking to people and never knowing quite what questions you're all going to get here. They can anticipate some of them, right? But they don't know all the things that are going to be here. So I'd like everybody to give them a round of applause, both of them, for doing what they're doing here. And most importantly, I think, because you guys have decided to become engaged in listening to what they're doing here. I think there is nothing greater to me than citizen input, citizen engagement into what happens in your communities. So on that end, I thank you for coming out here. Again, I have no horse in this race. I'm from St. Michael. I come to Buffalo now and then to mostly raise havoc, I suppose, in a different way. But I will say this, and in the spirit of civic engagement, I would encourage each and every one of you to attend your truth and taxation meetings, because you got a taste tonight of what that can be like when you can have discussions about city budgets. You can have discussions about, and this could apply to the county or the school board too, by the way. You can have these discussions with the leaders, all of them at one time, and you have the right to be able to get the transparency you need to look at budgets, to look at plans, to get the notion of what the vision is of that taxing entity, what they're thinking. You have that right, and you deserve to be heard. Look for your property tax statement in about a month's time, and you'll see the dates and times of where those are located at. So please be engaged. After that, Joe, KRWC, and the guy back there, sorry I don't know your name, thank you for being here and recording this. Appreciate it much. They are an arm of that transparency, and it's important for them to participate in this. So thank you for taking all the time to be here.
The views expressed in this program do not necessarily reflect those of KRWC Radio, its advertisers, staff, or listeners. Tonight's program has been previously recorded.